Exciting fun. All right, if we could all get settled down, we can get started, please. So, my name is Jonathan Weinberg. I kind of started this meetup out of an interesting story. We can talk about that later if we want. But tonight we have another community member, Rob Steiner, that's going to be presenting bouncing Bitcoin balls.
We're just going to watch this for 2 hours.
Nice.
Is that how fast it's dropping into your wallet?
Yes.
That's all of your Bitcoins going to our wallet.
Dropping out.
So we're going to talk about blockchain beyond the charts. So kind of really understanding from an investment perspective what we're going to get into and like being more wise about our decisions and go from there. So also real quick, I finally got my Ledger Nano.
Nice.
So I'm going to do a workshop on this next week, just to kind of for an educational purpose, if everybody's interested in that. Next week we will be doing a workshop with breakout sessions, and so it's a very different platform than kind of this guided discussion, general discussion that we have this week. So please come back. I'd like to see you all here, and we meet every Thursday right here. And without further ado, Rob.
Thank you. So we're going to play.
Just as a heads up, this is being recorded so that we can put it on the internet later.
We're going to play pretend and pretend that charts don't exist. So everybody has a lot of anxiety over all the things that are happening this year. We're going to have a couple hours to let all of that go. We're going to pretend that all of this amazing technology has happened, and now we're all just angel investors. We have a few $1 million. We want to invest in some up-and-coming companies that are doing some cool distributed technology and blockchain. And we're not trying to watch charts every day. We're not glued to our phones. And you're not buying in with $8. You all have several $1 million. You're looking to drop a few 100,000 into every opportunity. So if that was the context, if all of this technology existed and that was the world where there are not exchanges, how do you look at these companies? You wouldn't have candlesticks to go to. You wouldn't be looking at charts. You would have to be looking at the people, the implementation of technology, the people consuming that technology. And these principles, even though it's a different paradigm than it is in that, it's still going to apply, and it should help you make wiser decisions. Everything will normalize. This past few years has been an anomaly. It's not real life. So as we get further down the line and these technologies become more and more part of mainstream application, these principles are become more and more important. So that's what we want to talk about. So I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to tell you things and talk at you. I have these kind of points that are going to be points of discussion. We've been having these for 3 months. No, do not do that. Cisco. No, that was me.
So I'm really disappointed. There's no stochastics, no RSIs, no moving averages.
I don't even know what those things are right now. Those things don't exist.
Oh,
What is this, Wall Street?
yeah.
No, none of that. That's not what we're doing tonight. I mean, at a different time we will, because there's money on the table. But so for now, we're just going to talk these points. And so just briefly. So we've been doing this group's been meeting for 3.5, 4 months now, and we do these little breakouts every week and a half, and or every other week we do the breakouts. A lot of people have a lot of great things to say. So the points that I have here are going to open up the floor for people to offer their opinions. Just don't talk about charts; those don't exist. Nobody's going to know what you're talking about. So first of all, we'll start with the context of when all of this came to be, 2008, 2012, that range. What was the sentiment that led us to? Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you. So what was the sentiment that led us to, create all this technology? Why was it in demand? What even allowed it to be? We'll talk about that. And what came of all of the social pressures was the need for decentralization. And then how does that decentralization disrupt? How do we define value in the companies that are providing disruptive innovation? And then now we've got this whole new paradigm of identifying token value in the companies. Just because you're a company that provides a ton of value to the world doesn't mean that the tokens that we can buy are valuable. And then we're going to have some fun time to talk about how all of this can actually make the world better, aside from just the purely economic incentives. You can't give me this and then not give me a place to plug it in. I'm doing a good presentation.
This is why we have IT guys.
Sorry guys, I had to see that. Squirrel.
If that's the worst thing that happens, we're pretty good.
Yeah, for all this, so much thing that happens. Okay, I don't know how to work this. Okay, how did we get here? A few ideas of things that we can talk about. What do you guys think got us here? Go back to where you were 2008, 2010. What were the sentiments? What were you thinking about your money and the future of your money and the needs? You're thinking about, wow, like I'm giving you a lot of people my information, and that's scary. One person has all my information, your Facebooks and whatnot. What are you guys thinking? Like, what got us to the point where now we have this whole movement around decentralization? What got us there? My little bullet points of proliferation of knowledge. You know, we have this open source coders, all these brilliant people are sharing information about cryptography and ways, and you know, Satoshi's white paper being out there to the world. Proliferate, I'm not gonna say it, big word. Made this all possible, right? And we were pissed at the bank. It's like, you know, we don't trust them anymore. So all of our money that we have stashed away, I don't know if that's there anymore. Information becoming more and more valuable. More and more people are leveraging your information to make money, more and more companies. And you know, we're also at a point where we're rivaling the Roman Empire for our distribution of wealth disparity. Like, it's a problem. Those are things I think that led to the social elements that made everybody really determined to solve this problem.
Do you think this problem was more so in the U.S. versus globally?
My perspective is from the U.S. because that's where I live. The problems that are being solved globally, and you know what? I gave you this presentation. We could have added this. That would have been nice. So how did we get here in this perspective? If we were not privileged Americans, would be, I don't have a way to pay people. I don't have a way to get paid. Period. Like, these are very first world problems here, why this came to be. But it was first world problems that created solutions for people that have way more base problems. You know, the economies are thriving and people are exchanging value through cryptocurrencies all over the world out of necessity, not because, hey, it's cool and you know, I go to a bar and be relevant in the conversation and I'm gonna get a Lambo. Like, they're actually doing it because like it's the only way they can store their value. It's because, you know, they have a family, and you know, if they just have their paper notes from their government, they don't know if that's going to get a gallon of milk tomorrow. Whereas holding it here, I mean, as volatile as we see Bitcoin now, and it has been, it's way less volatile than some, you know, government issued currencies. So yeah, in other you know, other economies, it's all way more rudimentary than what I have listed here.
So question, are you talking about just the store of value? Are you talking about medium of exchange? Are you talking about basis for pricing of commodities? Or are you talking about that holistically?
Yeah, holistically.
Because I guess my perspective would be that, you know, currency is one way to sort of measure your store of value. But holding gold or other things like commodities that are of value to society to sustain itself on a global nature are also other ways that you can avoid having to be invested in somebody's currency. And that if you look at history of time, gold being specifically the one that, you know, we all kind of use as the benchmark. How many thousands of years have we used that as a store of value? And to somewhat avoid, although not perfectly, as we know, shaving off little parts of coins to be able to go, fuel wars in the Roman Empire time, generally has proven itself to be a stable form of storing value, despite what different economies and different power structures are deciding to do with their own measure of that buying power.
So think about this, but overnight, tomorrow is when you have to go get groceries. And there's currencies that deflate day after day.
Argentina.
And it's scary. So when you're trying to worry about feeding your family, it's a viable way of storing that. Now, I mean, obviously we have tons of issues with liquidity and actually purchasing power, but it is a means of solving that.
Oh, I agree it's a means. I'm just saying it's one mean versus the only mean, or like the only way forward, I guess.
Yeah,
I think there's other solutions potentially.
Yeah, what I'm trying to talk about here is just like what were the social pressures that caused us to even be thinking about this?
Got it.
If the financial crisis of 2008 didn't occur, are we here?
I would think it'd be.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I think one social pressure, since we're all millionaires in this scenario, is just the speed of ACH transactions. I mean, I don't want to wait 2 days to buy my next Lamborghini. I want that now.
And I don't want to be censored.
Yeah.
I was just going to add that I think it would have naturally occurred. I think that potentially it got accelerated by the financial crisis. That would be what I'd throw out there is.
By that?
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, clearly that's a part of it. I mean, Satoshi embedded in the first block, a headline talking about the banks being bailed out. So that was certainly a huge catalyst in the implementation of Bitcoin. I think a lot of what we see in more developed countries, the United States, Western Europe, is a lot of people buying Bitcoin and using it as a store of value, holding on to it because one day in the future they'll be able to sell it for fiat or other goods or services at a higher rate. Whereas, to your point, people who have to worry about, can I afford to wait until tomorrow to buy my groceries with the money I have, or are they going to be too expensive by then? In countries such as Venezuela, where we see very high rates of cryptocurrency adoption of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, to be used in day-to-day transactions. In the States, yeah, like you were saying, if you can go to a bar and buy a beer with Bitcoin, that's a great conversation starter with people. But for the most part, people aren't using it in the developed world for day-to-day transactions, whereas in poor countries with high rates of inflation, that is being used as a medium of exchange on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I think anybody who thinks we're going to replace any fiat in first world countries anytime soon is, that's not realistic, right? You look where the real demand is and where the real need. Like and we'll get to this where you're looking at what a business is offering, what the value somebody provides, and the root of real value is that need. And if you're just selling a luxury item, that can be tough sometimes. As an investor, you're looking at it like, if shit hits the fan, is my product still gonna have value? That's where this conversation here has gone is when shit hits the fan, the shit is all over the fan in some places already, it has value. And I think that properly sums this up, is that we were at a place in 2008 where there was a lot of uncertainty, and we didn't know if we were going to be Argentina or where we were going.
Either way, we should all be really, really grateful that all these problems are behind us, because the Senate recently passed the Dodd-Frank repeal.
Yep.
And the House is expected to go even further to repeal all of the safeguards that we put in place to prevent the next one. So I'm just so glad that it's basically a moot point now.
And we're still in QE, right?
Yeah.
But now next time this all goes down, there's going to be infrastructure in place that there isn't. We forgive very quickly.
Yeah.
We got over it pretty.
Well, the bank reserve, you would probably know, is 1% still. It was 10% before the crash, and now it's 1%.
I honestly don't know.
In terms of what the banks have to keep on reserve. So we haven't even rectified that. like even since the financial meltdown.
We're buying time, right? I mean, it's just a matter of time before all of this, before the government's essentially let us down again, right? I mean, it has to.
That's kind of how it's set up.
Yeah. So, but now there's like proven, means to resolve this.
Well, but I would argue that, what we as humans really want is, we don't want to go to bed at night in Argentina in the early 2000s and go to bed with $1,000 and wake up with $500, right? And which actually happened. And then suddenly now we're like, okay, well, where do we, how do we? And there were people that had $100 that woke up with $50, or 50 pesos, really. And how do they even feed their family with the new world order at that point in time? So people want a stable way to have a medium of exchange, and to the extent that cryptocurrency is more stable than what your alternative is, it will be adopted. Otherwise, my argument is it's all outside the speculation bubble. Like, none of us want to go to bed with $20,000 worth of Bitcoin and wake up with $9,000. I mean, we just don't want to do that.
Yeah,
it just doesn't. You don't want to have to go in and sit, like tomorrow a loaf of bread is $25. You don't want that. So
that's never the case. It's always in the Bitcoin unit. You see, it's always
but the buying power
denominated.
But the buying power of that is what I'm arguing.
Yeah, how many loaves of bread do you get for Bitcoin? I mean, that's
I'm talking about the relative buying power.
Depends on your time dilation, right? Are you concerned about being eaten away by inflation over a decade period, or are you concerned about being able to utilize that value that next day?
If you worked yesterday in Venezuela and you made equivalent of $5, and you needed to buy meat, bread, and milk for your family, you're not worried about 10 years from now. Like, it's a first world issue of, like, I'm worried, I'm okay with waiting for 10 years and dealing with the 10-year problem. I gotta stay alive till tomorrow with my family. And so I would say that those things have to be balanced on the perspective that I personally think to apply to that.
Another good scenario then to apply that perspective to is what happened in India when the central bank decides certain denomination of notes are no longer legal tender. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, if I was holding a lot of those notes and wanted to go buy bread the next day, I'd be, oh shit, this isn't accepted anymore.
Or the U.S. government bans the use of gold tender during
some
the Depression.
bureaucrat told me it's no longer accepted.
Or goes black market, right?
Yeah. So I mean, we have that same problem on our own land.
Exactly.
With the gold, with not being able to use gold, and having it be illegal to have and possess gold and use it for a medium of exchange.
So what I'm hearing is that those points that you mentioned, unstable currency and unstable socioeconomic conditions, is one of the things that motivated the creation of this. What is the fundamental understanding, or what's the fundamental belief that this blockchain can become more stable than these other currencies throughout the world?
I'm glad you asked.
Okay, good.
Oh, okay. I missed the.
What a beautiful segue.
Come on.